What's up, everybody? So we're back with another episode of the Swift Podcast. Today, I bring you a very special guest of mine, DJ Gio, a business owner, GBE Events, a friend of mine since 2009 from the good old Rider days. We go back like no other. Um, the best way to explain it, this kid is a legend, entrepreneur, and again, a dear friend of mine. So this has just been a special moment for us. Took us a while to get here, but Gio, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the grand intro. Love it.
What's going on, brother? How you feeling today?
Good, man. I mean, things should always be better. I mean, but it is what it is. Gotta keep positive.
Absolutely. So I brought you on to the show to talk about entrepreneurship and mental health, but I want to pause that for a second, and I want to go back to something you did a couple months ago, or I think a month ago. I want to talk about what you did for that school.
A school. So the school donation drive with Oasis.
Yes. So that's what I want to talk about first. So primarily because when I was sitting here waiting for your ass to get on, I was like, this kid. So for those of you who don't know, Gio has a very successful DJ company. Does a lot of wedding planning. So huge in the entertainment business. It took Gio 25 minutes to figure out how to turn the camera on his computer to get on.
Call me out.
and I was sitting here like, what do I do? But no, Gio, I want to talk about the donation, and I think that'll kind of lead us into everything else. Being in the entrepreneur business, you're because of the pandemic, you really haven't been able to do what you love to do because of things were shut down, weddings were happening, but you still gave hope to people that were hopeless at times, especially in that area with the school donations and so forth. So what was the outcome of that? And I know you and I talked about it plenty of times, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So the donation drive originally was supposed to be launched in September, in the beginning of September. But it was also around, during the pandemic, my industry got hit hard. Like we lost almost every account, every job every wedding got rescheduled, canceled. And, obviously everyone's prioritizing their health. But I wasn't able to actually get going with the donation drive, not for anything holding me back, but it's more of a being in the right place mentally to make sure that if I'm going to go through it, I'm going to be 100% doing it. So it took me until I think the end of October, November to really, kick things up, do the video campaign. And there's this organization in Paterson, New Jersey, with one of my former brides, Jessica Hill, who's worked for, I believe, school number 2 in Paterson for elementary age students. And she recommended this organization. It's for women and children. And I guess my mind thought was in November, because November is one of our slower months, and in a pandemic, it's non-existent. So instead of sitting back and sulking in depression, for me, like if I'm not moving and if I'm not grinding, like I can probably spiral down, like in some dark places. So for me, it's always, and especially in this business, as a business owner, I've always prioritized, like in my heart, no matter how successful I am or can be further along down the line, that my heart was always for the community and giving back to the community, whether I have, $2 in my name or 200,000 or 2 million, it doesn't matter. But for me to keep hope and positivity during the pandemic was, to be able to bring essential things to students like in Paterson, New Jersey, underprivileged, because they're stuck at home. They're in situations that are unprecedented in terms of like knowing whether they're going to be at home or at school, worried about their health. A lot of family situations going on. Parents can't afford to pay their kids' foods and school supplies and whatnot. So this donation really honed in on gathering up supplies and materials that teachers need and students need with school supplies, PPE and hand sanitizer and all that stuff. And then we were able to deliver it just in time, I believe 2 or 3 days before Christmas, to the Oasis Foundation.
That's awesome, man. How did it feel?
I always find joy in giving things to others, and bringing smiles and things to other people. And there's a whole psychological aspect to it. But it's just not who I am. I'm always about putting a smile on somebody's face or giving back to underprivileged, because there's situations that can always be worse than yours.
And he said it right there, folks. I think that's the beauty of the story and the beauty of this man in front of me. I've known Gio for a while, and I can tell you he hasn't had the easiest life, and I won't exploit him, but I will exploit certain parts during this episode. But I think that's what the pandemic did. And part of the reason why I started my podcast was to show you the local heroes of my life that are not celebrities. By all no means is Gio a celebrity. By all no means has this story ever really launched social media or just the media in general. But I've seen stories of people giving deaths to people, and that made the CBC News and SBC News and BBC and all this jazz. But this story went under the radar. However, to me, it was a little bit more touching because a dear friend of mine did it. We all were a big part of this campaign, but he helped an organization and he helped a town that's kind of under the radar. And that's all what it's about. It's kind of doing it without really caring about the publicity. It's doing it because you have a good heart to do it. And that kind of takes us in transition of like mental health. So this pandemic happened. You and I had multiple conversations on the phone of like, dude, I'm not working. What are you doing? What do we do? What's going on? We're not making any money. And we both sat there like, bro, we went to school. Like, I owe Ryder money. You owe Ryder money.
On my ass.
And it's like we have all this to do, but we had this sense of joy regardless of what. And I think mental health was something you launched in your feed and you talked about. And I think that's a very key component in overcoming what we're still going through. It hasn't ended yet, right? We're 7 days into 2021 and shit just hit the fan again. And you're like, what's going on?
Well, it took a toll on me, but I think it took a toll on everyone yesterday. Like whether you felt anger or sadness or whatever you were feeling, it definitely touched on everyone.
I think that's what it is, right? So I think mental health and part of the Swift podcast, so the W stands for wellness. And in my eyes, wellness is also mentally well as physically well. And I've seen some of your content that you put out there about mental health. And I'll tell you for a fact that if you aren't taking care of yourself mentally, are you really healthy? Are you really fully well? And I think mental health is something underlooked. So for me, right, I've been going into more meditation, box breathing, stuff of that sort. So what have you done? Because I know you were in a different position than I was. You had a lot more going on. But at the same time, talking to you and I had similar stories, just different time frames.
Yes.
We both coped differently. I ate a lot more cupcakes than you did, I'll tell you that much. But
you work it out more than I do, though.
But yeah, so what was your go-to? What were you doing? What was the...
To say that I'm an expert in handling mental health in my own situations, I find myself coping in different ways. But there's days where I'm lost, where I am depressed, where I'm spending a day in bed and not realizing why I'm not getting up. It happens. Like I'm pretty sure it happens to a lot of people. I just never want it to happen to me because I've always been a grinder and a hard worker. But, we can't control what we can't control sometimes, except putting a strong foot forward and being self-conscious that you have the capacity to control your emotions and your feelings and whatnot. If you really, keep the mindset that if you want to feel happy, or whatever, you just have to have that kind of, really think and basically put it out there. So how I cope with situations, being that you're in the fitness industry and I enjoy fitness, that's a way of coping for me. Sure. Like where there's a whole physiological aspect behind of why people feel good going to the gym.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to get to the hormones and whatnot, but it gives me something. I enjoy fitness. I enjoy the results from dedication and work, So that's what keeps me happy. Um, but sometimes we have to dig deeper in that, because some people go to the gym to hide emotions, you know, which I caught myself doing sometimes. I'll go to the gym and work out to hide a feeling that I don't want to feel. If I go to the gym, I'm not feeling it because I'm focused on something else. So that's like, distracting yourself from digging really deep into the problem, or whatever it is. So yeah, during a pandemic has amplified whatever feelings I'm feeling, whether it's depression or it's happiness, or. But my main tunnel vision is to remain optimistic and inspiring and helping others. And the big thing for me is helping others, because again, like, although I'm at the brink of, like, my business on the brink of, like, collapsing, during a pandemic, I will never let it collapse, because that's just who I am. Like, I will do whatever I need to do to keep it afloat. Um, but yeah, I feel like I'm talking in circles, but it's just the outlook of optimism and helping others is what keeps. That's how I cope. That's how I keep going, because I know, like, I'm in an apartment, like, I have electric, I have water, I have food, and those are the things that we forget to appreciate, because I've been in places where they don't have the bare essentials. So anything that I can do to relieve that hurt and pain from anyone else, I will do.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's funny, right? Yesterday I read a quote about like, stop complaining because you have everything in front of you. You don't need what you can't have. And I think sometimes that's the most overlooked aspect as human beings. We always wanted, want. I know you and I talked about what the pandemic really did for us. It told us what we should really care about and what really matters the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your health, your family, the loved ones, and it made you realize how underprivileged certain people just in your own community could be. And it also showed you the sense of community. I know locally in my community, like in Hamilton, a lot of guys were coming out supporting small businesses, helping small businesses, and they're still doing it because those are the people that were suffering the most. And I know you personally, and obviously I know you have a business to run, and I know for you, your business, it just, we couldn't do much. There wasn't much going on with how things were running, how things were playing. And you had this whole aspect of like, what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next. And I think that definitely played a role. But I applaud and I respect the fact of how you recovered and how you're still uprising. I think you're still, we still have a long way to go because you missed almost a year of work.
Yeah.
But you're still the same Gio, and that's what I love about this guy. So for those of you who don't really know him, like I know him, he does not change. No matter what the insight is, no matter what he's going through, no matter what he's feeling. We see each other maybe once every 2-3 years. I think this year we set a record. Last year we saw twice a year. But like our friendship has been to a point where we've gotten kicked out of restaurants, yelled at restaurants. Ryder, we were the two biggest clowns known to men. And that's who we were. But it never changed. No matter what we felt, no matter what we were going through, it was always the same persona you received. It was always the same attitude you received, and it was that optimism. And they always say energy is always attract.
Yes.
And that's why our friendship has been that way, because of our positive energies towards each other. So no matter what we were going through, the outcome was that. And even during the pandemic, we talked to him like, yo, bro, like, I got nothing to do, and all I know is what to do 24/7. Like, I'm sitting in my house twiddling my thumbs. What should we do?
Yeah.
I guess being an entrepreneur, and if I was in his position, I'd be the same way. Like, having your own business is hard to begin with, but then having it but not being able to work, but it's still established. So you're in like this awkward pickle. Like, where do I go? What do I do?
You're essentially doing full-time work beyond full-time hours into the night for no gain, for just
Absolutely.
because, like, as a business owner, you're supposed to market, you're supposed to do everything you need to do, but people don't realize, especially when they're asking for discounts during a pandemic, that we work a shit ton of hours for nothing, because it's our passion. Just like, the personal training and the fitness is your passion. Mine is entertaining and the wedding and life events.
I think you hit a trigger in most trainers, small business owners, and coaches' life of when people ask for that discount. and they don't realize what happens. Like for me, I have a doctor, I have 6 different certifications. I put a lot of knowledge into my education. I put a lot of thought and money into my education. So I'm going to charge the price that I think is appropriate, right? Like in the clinic, they charge the price that's appropriate for the amount of work we put in. So if you undervalue yourself, then yeah, go ahead and give yourself a discount. But I never did that. And I feel like for you the same way, especially now during this time where most of the people that are asking for a discount probably were still working
Yes.
and
Yes.
probably still had a job.
100%.
Like, listen, sweetheart, I get it. You want that discount, but you had a job for a year. Your boy was laid off. Like, I didn't have money coming in. Like, the same
Yep.
thing for you. And I think the work that you put in, so if you guys check out GBE events and look at Gio's content for weddings and quinceaneras, is that how you say it? Something like that.
Quinceañeras, Sweet
I ain't
16.
gonna, I'm not
Basically,
even gonna
any
play with
life
that.
event. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and look at any of his events, but look at the photo bombs and the fog that comes out, and then geo dancing and all this. Yeah, there's a lot of thought and process going to. I've been to a lot of weddings, and I'm not just saying it because he's one of my closest friends. I don't fluff this because if he sucked, I'd be like, "Yo, Gio, you suck," and he knows that. I'd be straight honest with him,
Yeah.
right? And he knows that.
Yeah.
No one's
Facts.
hiding that.
He's brutal. Yeah.
So it's a lot of thoughts. I would never ask for that. I asked Gio to be DJ for my wedding, but then we went away from that because he's probably going to be in the wedding if I ever get married and decide that route. But like, it's the value that you buy. So for those listening, realize that one thing, like he said, for months he was working with no leads, no end, just continue to promote. And he put a lot of value and thought into those promotions. So why are we going to be the ones like, hey, let me cut you down a little bit when you need
Especially
it?
when they're your friends and they're people you've grew up with, or whatever. I get it. Everyone wants a discount. I get it. I understand. But where people lack, and I think mentally lack, is empathy and being able to put your headspace into somebody else's headspace. Like being in the you. It's blatantly clear that we are struggling in the entertainment and live events industry. It's one of the biggest industries in the United States, and it's overlooked. Like they're
Yeah.
it's overlooked by the government. It's overlooked by a lot of people. Your Broadway shows, like everything, gone. Um, and all these people put their talent and their work and their hours auditioning and practicing and rehearsing and putting out this content, and just like you as a business owner doing everything you need to do, and you're limited to contacting your with contact with your clients or whatever. um and then just, I feel like it's kind of an insult and a slap to the face to say, like, I want it for half off. I was like,
Absolutely.
I haven't been working in a year, and you've had your job and you've probably been given more hours, working in your job, and have the luxury of staying at home and still getting the same pay or increased pay and whatever. It's not about that. It's more of the lack of empathy, which I find
Yeah.
a little messy.
I had a I saw a video of a friend of mine on Instagram, and he's a private business owner. He has a great gym right in Lawrenceville, and he went on a rant about that same thing you said. He goes, people come up to him, and he's a good trainer. He's a really good trainer. I've seen some great results with him. His name is Dave. He does really great work, and he's like, don't come in here asking for a discount. Don't. Period. Like, I'm not going to give it to you. And it's straightforward, as simple as that. There's people that will give you discounts, right? There's people that will be willing to drop their price for the value. But
Yeah.
it's what it say. You pay what you get, right? You pay for it, and that's what you get. Like, if I'm gonna go, oh, if I'm gonna go to Walmart and buy a pre-workout, it would be like $10. Great. I'm gonna go and throw up the next minute. Or I'll go to, like, I shop most of my stuff at Aries, and I get some content, great quality supplements that I need, and I feel better about it. So do you cut yourself short of the food and stuff that you buy? Do you cut yourself and you go for the cheaper stuff, or do you buy the quality stuff? You're going to put quality stuff in your body, right? You're
Yeah.
going to put quality stuff for you. So put quality content out there. So put quality things into it. And people that give you quality, give them what they're worth.
Yeah.
And the company I work for at Breakthrough, they're great about that too, right? They always tell us, like, this is what our self-pay rate is, because this is what you guys are worth. This is what we acknowledge. We acknowledge your knowledge. We acknowledge everything you're doing, and that's what it should be about. So I applaud you for not giving discounts. And I know we always try to help a friend out. I know I've helped out friends all the time where I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, just come by. I'll do this. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't pay me. But at some point, like, listen, like, there's only so many favors
I,
you can do in a day, you know?
a good for me, and it's how I judge character, is a good friend will, if they, if they're a good friend and they're happy for your business, they're going to invest into that business. They're going to support you and not ask for a discount. Those are true
Yeah,
friends because they want to
absolutely.
see you, they need your service, and they want to invest into something that their friend is passionate about. So I would
And I
never
think
ask a
that's
friend for something for free or a discount because I don't believe in it.
And I think that's the moral of the story is the one of the pandemics. So again, for those listening, what you have is you have a business owner who's been working day and night for a business he can't run right now because of the pandemic and all the stops and all the shortages of betting venues and so forth. And still trying to help the people with the kindness of heart and still trying to protect his business as much as we can. I think that's what it comes down to is protecting yourself, right? Everyone's kind of out for themselves at the same time, right? They're like looking out for each other and so
Yeah.
forth, but are they really truly looking out for you? That's a key component for loyalty. And I think that's a judgment of character. But I think as we've gotten older, we've gotten wiser to that. We've gotten wiser to that. But I think it all comes back to the mental stage of ourself and our well-being, right? A couple of years ago, you asked me for certain things. I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll give it to you. Now you ask me, I'm like, listen, I know what I put myself through for all these years. I know what my value is. And at the
Yeah.
right place, at the right time, your value will never be overlooked. And that's what you chase, right? That's the true meaning of life in a sense of like, that's what you really want. If you have the value, like I saw a video of a priest. And he brought out, remember, I think I shared it with you, a $20 bill, and he crumbled a $20 bill. He threw it, and he asked the girl, do you still want it? He goes, yeah. He stomped on it. Do you still want it? She goes, yeah. And then he tore it up. He goes, you still want it? She goes, yeah. And he goes, because it never lost its value. Moral of that story is you've been beaten, you've been told you can't work, you've been able to do XYZ. You still never lost your value as a human being and as a DJ. You're still valued the same way and you're still respected the same way, right? And that's how we should always be looking at ourselves of how we are. We'll never lose our value unless we truly believe we lost our value. And when you start to lose your value, that's when you're okay with giving yourself the short change of things, right? Um, that's how I see it, you know? I don't know how we got on this topic. This has nothing to do with our
You know
scripted out
what?
words.
Bounce off
So
ideas, and it all ties in some kind of way.
that's it. But no, I agree with you, man. And again, I applaud you
Thank
for the stands you've been taking because, again, that's what, for me, you coming on the show is just enough.
you. Yeah.
But there's always an insight in our conversations, right?
Uh
There's
huh.
always that, like, that people don't understand that. And they just don't get it, you know?
I every conversation, I gotta say, every time I have a conversation with you, I leave learning something, or I leave with some kind of inspiration, or I leave, and those are the people that you want to keep around, the people that inspire, the people that and I've always said this, like even in my custom company masks, I put energy, equality, unity, because those are points that I really hone in on. And why I
Absolutely.
put energy, first, it's not because of the energy of level of entertainment, because I entertain, I give 100% of my energy, but energy is an attraction towards me, towards someone. And I've always found a way to connect myself unknowingly with somebody that are, lifelong, like great people. Like Sakib, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have stuck around if my energy did not say this
Yeah,
person was a good person, like
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
have, I don't know if everyone has that sensation, but I can feel when somebody is of good character and brings that. I'm not expecting you to bring value into my life, but I expect you to be someone who will uplift me, just like I would uplift you, regardless of whatever position we're in life. I'm always going to make you do your best, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. And I think that's the beauty of our friendship and the beauty of life and how good friends will always be good friends. But that kind of takes me into how I always wrap up my podcast for those who've been watching. So I'm going to put Gio right on the spot without a warning. And Gio, I want you to give the viewers and the listeners your three pieces of advice. Okay. So we talked entrepreneurship, we talked value, we've talked mental health. we've talked our friendship and the trust and bond we have. But three big advices for someone that's going to be put in your position. So an entrepreneur that's still kind of fighting to make it to the top because of the pandemic, someone who kind of goes through these mental battles on a daily basis and how to overcome those challenges and obstacles, and really the true judgment of a character. Right. I think you do a great job of that, your circle around you and the judgment of that. Like I still kind of lack that in a sense, right? I still don't always have the best people in my circle, but I'm getting there. And then you do a better job than I do. So you have the floor. You tell us your three.
My three. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you recap? Like three, like what I find important?
Three that you find that important in terms of someone going for mental health, entrepreneurship, and overall creating value within a friendship or
I think, okay. I think number one is whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, whether it's a business, whether it's, reading a book or whatever it is to have a clear mindset and a true passion for what you're doing. Like if you're in a position, you're working and you're not happy, why you got to really think why you're in that position. Like, to live happy, you have to be doing something that you're enjoying. Because no one could ever pay me enough to sit in a cubicle, because I'm very social. I'm an entertainer. You can't pay me enough to be sat in a location where I'm feeling miserable, because that ties into your mental health as well. Like, yes, the money is great, like you have a steady like I could, see myself, being comfortable, just floating through life, getting my weekly paycheck, my health benefits and all that. But it's not what makes me happy. It's not my passion. So if you're not chasing and doing what you're really passionate about, you really step back and think why you're in the position that you're in, and really try to hone in on what you're really into, and then make that your source of income. Find a way to make it your source of income, make it your life, because that's what you really value. Another thing, point two, other than passion, is I think it's human. Again, I'm a social person, so I'm very much into learning about people. I'm into compassion, and I think I'm an empath, because I put myself in people's headspaces all the time. And I could step back to some deeper level of other things going on with myself that we could always talk about later in another deeper podcast. But you know what I mean. But I think what I meeting people, networking, learning about them, and really finding ways to I guess add value to their lives, if especially if they're sharing information and knowledge and things that bring value to your life. So I think your networking and your social interactions is very important. So that'd be compassion and empathy. And the last thing is to just have what's been keeping me through the pandemic is optimism and just the grind. I don't feel fulfilled as a person. If there's a day, there are days where I do have the feeling of depression. I don't feel motivated. It happens. I think it happens to everyone. So never think that it's just you. When it's a consistent long thing, maybe you should seek some kind of help. And there's no shame in asking for help, because I've done it myself. But to have that drive, the hustle, the grind, and I forgot what I said before, but that is what keeps me going through the pandemic, in terms of the business side of things, and being able to wake up every morning and feeling like I have a purpose. I have something to do that will help me grow as well as other people, because my company isn't just about me. It's about, I also think about the people that I pay, I want that I have young guys that really want to get out there, that are really asking me, hey, can I practice here? Can I do this, that? And it's not about me. It's about, for me, I get joy in seeing, this 17-year-old DJ that really wants to go out there and learn, and seeing him fulfill what his dream is. Like, so that is what keeps me going.
Wow, that's that got deep. That's why I love you, brother.
Yeah.
And there we have it, folks. So I'm going to take the floor and finish with my closing statements as per usual. But there's not much left to said here. Everything Gio has said has been the light, the halo light that's shining on me has been my life for almost 10 years knowing this young man. He's actually older than me. But, so, but it's true, right? So we talked entrepreneurship, we talked mental health, we talked companionship, we talked friendship. And what does it come down to? Is one, self-love, right? Loving yourself to know that you can do everything, but it's the companionship. It's having someone in your network and having someone in your drive to always motivate you. No matter what your goal is, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, if you just want to be a regular person doing your day-to-day job and you're consistent with that, fine. You should have a vision, but you should always remember your passion is going to drive it. I have never chased money in my life. I've always chased my passion. And Gio knows all the jobs I've went through and where I've worked and what I've done and where I am today. And he can speak for you and vouch for it. I won't go on that tangent. And I think he's the same way. He's always chased his passion. And if you chase your passion, everything else will follow. But when you really chase your passion, the energy will follow, the optimism will follow, and the consistency will follow because you're doing something you love to do. And I think that's the moral of this entire podcast. We didn't really have the script of what we were talking about. I was like, Gio, I just want to get you on the show to get you on the show because you're Gio and I love you, right? That's all we said. But if you really, really listen to what he said, and if you really hone in on all those things that were talked about today, we chased and we talked and we led to one thing. It's passion. I think that's the biggest lesson we're going to get out of today's podcast for you guys is staying true to your passion no matter what happens. Staying true to what you truly believe in no matter what obstacle is in front of you. If you're passionate about that goal, if you're passionate about that dream, let that be it. If you take your heart out and you put it on the table and you put every ounce of effort into chasing that, there shouldn't be anything stopping you. The only thing that's going to stop you is your mentality. But if you're chasing something you love and you want to chase, then that mentality is in the positive mindset. So it all kind of linked together, right? If I use his story as an example, he's a DJ. Pandemic hit. He couldn't work for a year, and he's still trying to find work because weddings still aren't allowed in Jersey. For those of you who don't know, Jersey's got it's a hub. There's a lot going on in Jersey. And to work in Jersey right now is a hard task to do. But the passion is existent. The grind becomes existent. No matter what, when you really build something with passion, you don't want to see it come down. And I think that's the best lesson you have without even realizing it, right? When you really hone in, and this is where listening really comes into play, when you really put pieces together of the puzzle, that circle completes itself. And I think that's the truest lesson you can get out of it with all three of those devices he gave you, right? Be passionate, be consistent, have a great network, have a good support system, be optimistic. But it all starts with where your passion lies and what you're going to do. And with that, folks, I want to conclude today's episode. So thank you for tuning in. You will see Gio again for a random conversation. That's just going to happen. I guarantee you he'll probably have the most episodes with me, but that's just who we are. And we started this back in 2009, and we probably won't change this until we get to our grave. So, Gio, thank you for coming.
Always bring value. No, thank you.
Thank you, brother. And I'll see you soon.
All right. Mad love. Bye.